Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Duffy Duck here once again, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby Superstar, aka Kirby's Fun Pack for the Super Nintendo. So last time we actually did tackle through the majority of Dino Blade, even though we actually breezed through 5 levels, excluding those 2 secret switches, which actually leads us to these 2 copy ability rooms, and that's all you really can get for this point, people. And today for this particular episode, sorry for a little bit of attention right there, is the fact that we're going to be moving on to the next game of the bunch, now in forms of the Great Cave Offensive. I'm probably not going to do this in one particular episode though, but definitely the next video and the next video after that. So, if you're probably wondering, I might as well get into the Revenge of Mennonite after we actually did tackle through the Great Cave Offensive first. So, but even then, we actually gone through the halfway point of that particular Kirby Superstar itself, so yeah, let's get started. The Great Cave Offensive. Go get through the deadly cave while collecting hidden treasures. And the difficulty in this particular game is 4 stars. So, yeah, we got ourselves, the G system means gold, and we actually got none treasures at the moment. So even then, if that's the case, then this is going to be a really big game at the moment. At least as far as for the actual Kirby Superstar game itself. And of course, much like last time, we have to leave the game running until we actually come across into the cutscene right there. What happens was, though, is that after when Kirby managed to have himself a little bit of pride and joy into the actual Dreamland itself, and then he come across into a danger sign, and he managed to fall into the Great Cave Offensive. So that's where we're about to be hit into these days. So yeah, so let's get started here. Is this your first time playing the Great Cave Offensive? Well, since I've selected no last time 3 times naturally, so let's go with this one. Here's how you do the Great Cave Offensive. Which, by the looks of it though, basically the Great Cave Offensive is somewhat similar to Spring Breeze and Dino Blade, like the ability to able to still use the copy abilities and all that stuff. And we're still able to have to usually use 3 extra lives to start off with, much like how it does it from before. And except a noticeable difference this time around though is the fact that the main gimmick in Great Cave Offensive is grabbing those treasures department, which even then though, we'll get to that as soon as we're able to actually find ourselves our first treasure. And yeah, in order to actually see this menu right there, basically you have to press the X button. So even then though, if you manage to able to press that, then you can actually find some treasures. So the first treasure we have is the gold medal, and this worths 10,000 gold. So even then though, that's pretty worth it, I suppose. But even then though, this is the first treasure in this particular Great Cave Offensive. Of all the modes we actually did manage to come in towards in this particular game itself, this one is actually pretty unique because it's almost like a Metroidvania type of mode. Like, you know, trying to go for every single collectibles as possible. But even then, that does remind me of that. Okay, so we got a second treasure, gold coin, and I believe that's worth about just only 1,000 gold. So there's not much to tell with those particular golds in mind. So even then though, that's yeah, that's as far as I can say. So anyways, and I believe there's going to be a next treasure down here, which we need to do is to basically just destroy one of those 2 bomb blocks, except the center one, because if you manage to accidentally destroy the center block, you'll actually block your way to able to get the third treasure, which is the whip. And this actually worths about 6,800, or in this case, 6,800 gold. So, or alternatively, 6,800. So even then, that makes it a different alteration with that particular sub number. So yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning for this throughout. So yeah, throughout in the Great Cave Offensive, I will able to actually just trying to go ahead and grind all of the treasures in the game, or in this case in the entirety of the Great Cave Offensive, because there are a grand total of, I would classify for saying, roughly about 60 of them. So even then though, there's going to be a lot of treasures to find here. So even then though, that hopefully we can able to find them all just in time. And occasionally at one point or another, some of these treasures will actually require you to able to do some puzzle solving every once in a while, like these door switches. Oh yeah, before we actually get into this kinds of stuff, uppercut! Yeah, which is the forms of the fighter copy ability. The fighter copy ability can be very useful in some instances, but in forms of, as I mentioned earlier, using uppercut. Anyways, we got ourselves our 4th treasure right there, the crystal ball, and this actually worths 200,000 gold. quite rare though, to say the least. But even then though, that every time you grab one of those treasures, it adds up to your gold total, but from every time you're actually just trying to grab those treasures from. So even then though, that might be something that's worth mentioning throughout. And I do apologize of the lack of uploading schedule recently, but in forms of this is going to be uploaded during quite late. This is probably due to how the fact that I haven't really get onto these kinds of stuff that often. But even then though, I'll get some more emphasis on that later down the road. And of course, there's going to be a 5th treasure up there, which is pretty simple. Destroy all these blocks, filling your head. This will give you Lucky Cat. And this actually worth you 500 gold. So, yeah, that's as far as worth mentioning for that throughout it though. So, it's entirely optional if you want to go up there and destroy that bomb block, because that way it can actually lead you to a shortcut to all the way back here, so it's nothing worth mentioning. But it can be kind of handy though if you want to able to backtrack if you actually miss on certain treasures. So, yeah, this particular mode does remind me of the Metroidvania style of gameplay like that. Which even then though, it's something's a little bit similar to how it does it, but in forms of Castlevania, the Symphony of the Night, and also by the likes of I would classify for Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal on the 3DS, and especially Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. But anyways, here's the next treasure right there, Suri's Sword, which actually worths 142,000 gold. That's quite a lot though, actually. Because yeah, if you manage to let the treasure chest get into the actual lava, it'll destroy itself. So even then, you need to be really fast and quick if you want to get that treasure so badly. And you don't want to be able to land on those particular breakable platforms either, because it'll also manage to count as destroying the treasure and stuff like that. So, here's another treasure right there, the Irigo Candy, which actually worths 8,000 gold. Nothing worth mentioning for this throughout. And I'm pretty sure we actually got ourselves, I would classify for saying like few treasures at the moment. So even though that, since we're actually in the beginning part of that particular, the Great Cave Offensive itself. But even then though, that as far as the actual world itself, but in forms of the Great Cave Offensive, I'll talk more on that details on that later. But for now, we got ourselves a save system, which every time you come across into those little doors that usually has some sparkly stars on each side of the door. This actually represents the save system. So even then, every time you actually come across into those, if you're having a hard time one of these later levels throughout it though, it's a pretty good way to able to save your progressioning in the forms of the Great Cave Offensive itself. So, that's worth mentioning for that throughout it though. So, anyway though, I'm going to be using Beam right there, because Beam is actually requires us to able to actually get into these other sorts of treasure chests, mainly the ones in down here. Because, yeah, we got ourselves a screwball? Screw tag. Yeah, I probably borrowed that from, some Call Me Johnny's joke. But anyways, screwball actually worths 80,000 gold. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the forms of a reference to a Metroid series. But in forms of, you know, Metroid, Super Metroid, I guess doing Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, and Metroid Prime. No, not Metroid Prime, because normally it doesn't have a screw attack on that game. But during the likes of Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3, and especially noticeable with Metroid Other M, and also Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS, even though I really need to get into the Metroid series and do it eventually. But I will classify for wait for a while, because I need to actually wait until when some more information on the forms of Metroid Prime 4 is about to be on the horizon. So here's another reference here, but in forms of Zipper Mask, and actually this will actually worth 278,000 gold. So that's quite a lot of gold to worth from. So yeah, with the Zipper Mask, this is actually a reference to something related to this little Proto Mask for the forms of Super Mario Bros. 2 USA. So if I was worth mentioning for this throughout, hey Bongos, how's it going? And he kills himself. Because you don't want to fall down here though, because obviously you will die from that point right there. It's also worth mentioning though is the fact that the annoying part about this particular game, I find, is the fact that after when you die, whenever you're trying to able to actually access to this secret room or something like that, what happens is though is the fact that you have to go back into that current save point you saved on. So even then though, that it can be kind of annoying at times if you want to able to actually just you know, trying to continue on with this sense of progressioning. But apart from that though, it's a little bit more treacherous, if you might as well think. And also, I just learned myself this particular ability by the forms of Plasma Kirby. In order to actually do this particular technique like I did done for about a few seconds ago, basically just keep on tapping left or right on the directional pad. Oh yeah, before I get into that particular move, there's a Star Stone, actually worth us 82,100 gold. Not much there, but at least it's kind of enough. But anyways though, with the particular trick I've just done, in order to actually perform this by simply we need to keep on alternately tapping left or right on the directional pad. If you do this quite a few times, then you would able to perform a devastating attack by the forms of the plasma. So yeah, huge thanks to the forms of how the fact that I've just really did not even realize that after doing it right about now. But even then, it was a pretty cool ability if you weren't able to use that so badly, or even in this case if you're having a hard time with some of these levels throughout in this game. You were classified to actually use that most of it though. So anyways though, yeah, the Great Cave Offensive was actually a pretty interesting mode at the same time, because even then though that, you know, it kind of reminds me like a Metroidvania style of gameplay, and also judging by the fact that there's going to be a ton of like backtracking heavy, which even then I don't really mind too much, because even then though this mode is so unique. So, oh god, these Gordos just managed to hit me like nothing else. Oh god, I get the feeling this enemy is trying to not letting me gap. Oh, you son of a... That was my fault. I think it's probably because for that enemy right there, usually just reflect the attack back right at me. So even then, I need to actually just to pay attention to that particular ability. That's usually, yeah. This is what I mean. Whenever you're trying to accidentally die in during the likes of this particular game alone, you always have to go back into that previous rooms you actually enter in, or in this case, for that little desirable save points. So even then though, that's the only gripe I have with that mode. But apart from that though, it still is a pretty unique mode at the same time. So even then though, that was worth mentioning for this throughout. Few things I want to mention about this actually is the fact that recently yesterday, by the forms of the announcement of the forms of the SXSW panel, actually experienced there are some quite few announcements in the forms of the Sonic the Hedgehog career. First off, they actually did announce some more information on the forms of Sonic Forces Speed Battle, which is the forms of the iPhone game. It actually brings us into a new environment this time, by the forms of the Mystic Jungle, which even then though, that might be interesting to see how that world turns out in Speed Battle, but I'll get into more details on these other kinds of stuff later. But there's Beast's Thing, which actually worth about 7,300 gold. So, that's probably worth mentioning for that. So, anyway, another announcement they actually did announce with, by the forms of, you know, the Sonic the Hedgehog, stuff, you know, throughout, is the fact that recently, you know how the fact that during almost a year ago now, they actually did announce the new Sonic game revealed by the forms of Sonic Mania, which I found is really awesome game indeed, by the forms of the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. However though, thanks to the actual SXSW panel, basically they did announce there's going to be a physical release of the forms of Sonic Mania this time around, which is really cool. And also they're going to be bringing out a free update by the forms of Sonic Mania, known as Sonic Mania Plus. Kind of like how it does in the forms of originally in Sonic Mega Collection that came out in the Nintendo GameCube. And then later on, they actually did reveal Sonic Mega Collection Plus, but in the forms of the PlayStation 2 and Xbox and PC. Which even then kind of feels like the same way as it does it for Sonic Mania when it first released during the likes of the year ago. And then later on in 2018, they start to expand upon it by the forms of Sonic Mania Plus, which is quite cool. The bandana actually worth about 1,990 gold, so even I thought it was worth mentioning for that treasure. Anyway, back into what I was saying, and, yeah, the reason why is usually gonna be bringing out Cutter with me, just because of this treasure here. And this will gives us Springtime, and this will worth about 250,000 gold. Quite a lot of, cash, though. And, yeah, before I get into this kinds of stuff, you're probably wondering what this location is gonna be called. This location is called Sub-Tree, which even then though, because, you know, abundance of trees everywhere, and especially noticeable that actually represents, you know, I could assuming spring, which even then though, that might be something that's worth mentioning for that throughout it though. So, Anyway, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'm probably not going to go for the majority of the Great Cave Offensive all in one go, because there's going to be a multitude of treasures to find all over the place. But even then, aside from that, that's all I can really say. Oh yeah, at the end of this section right there, depends on what worlds you're in, basically you have to come across into not only, you remember how Kirby Superstar was going to be bringing us some of the exact same boss battles as the forms of the previous installments, but now they're going to bring even more bosses, but in forms of, we already know Dino Blade was one of them, and this is the next new boss introduced in the Kirby franchise, specifically in this game. This is the forms of Fatty Whale, which, he looks kind of simple at first, but I don't know why I keep on getting hit by him quite a few times, probably because of my pattern is a little bit too difficult to pull off, or maybe perhaps it's because I'm really not used to with the blocking How the... His health bar is all the way down to 0. That's just kind of lame. Anyway though, I really do apologize if my skills wasn't exactly that most advanced out of them all, but you still manage to keep your treasures though, every time you die, so even end up that it's always a good thing if you manage to able to keep on dying and then your treasure's value will still be saved. So, anyways, let's try this boss again for a second attempt, and I'm hoping we can able to bypassing it this time. Well, at least it all depends though, really, because even then, you know, they get the idea with this solution right there. So anyway, I guess that's about it for the most part, I think, folks, because even then, oh, besides the Sonic Mania Plus, as I mentioned earlier, they're trying to make a physical release of Sonic Mania Plus now, which even then, though, that would be a very, very huge positive thing, because everyone was really, really hoping for the physical release of Sonic Mania for about a lot of requestments. And also, judging by the fact that, as far as when Sonic Mania, expansion pack usually expected, that how the fact that it actually brings us not one but 2 playable characters is going to be making the returning back, well, after the long amount of years as years to come, and that's the forms of Mighty the Armadillo. Thank God he's now finally back, ever since Knuckles Chaotix for about, I would classify for 23 years ago. Jesus Christ, 23 years ago. And also Ray the Squirrel from Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog arcade machine, which I think is actually really, really awesome. And I think that was usually based around from 25 years. Jeez, 25 years. Almost around the exact same year as for Sonic CD as well. Of course, we got ourselves a dime, which actually not worth anything, but only worth 10 golds. Not much, but even then a shorter amount. And speaking of another treasure, there's another one over there. And this is Glass Slippers, and this worth 120,000 gold. Does that item look familiar to you? Well, I certainly do, because that's heavily borrowed from Cinderella, specifically the 1950 film Disney's Cinderella. So, yeah, pretty cool to actually see that item makes an appearance in the forms of the Kirby game like this. Because I mentioned earlier that, as far as Kirby Superstar itself, including the likes of Kirby Superstar Ultra for the DS, does brings us a lot of references from specifically Nintendo games, and especially from something else. But even then though, as far as we actually, the next area we're in right now, this is the forms of the Crystal area. This level's gimmick is the forms of how the fact that, as you can see, we actually come across into those 3 different doors. If you go to the door on the right, this will take you to the very end of the that particular area, or in that section rather. Because basically, this particular game, as far as the Great Cave Offensive goes, only contains 4 segments, which even then though, the first area was pretty simple, we had to go through Sub-Tree in this particular section, which actually leads us to the Crystal area. And we got ourselves our goblets right there, which actually worth 800 gold. Not to be confused as Goblet of Fire from Harry Potter, the Goblet of Fire, which even then, I haven't really watched the Harry Potter series. Well, the only time I've actually watched the Harry Potter series is the forms of how the fact that, well, I still do enjoy them, don't get me wrong. But it's just the fact that it's been a long while since I actually just watching those series most of the time because of the retrospective of the Fantastic Beasts. So yeah, grab that treasure quickly before it goes down to the bottomless pit, because if you're too late, then you're not going to grab it. So, saucepan only worth 10 gold. Again, much like the Dine, it's nothing kind of worth that much, but even then though, at least I can cope with this, I think. So anyway, aside from Mighty the Armadillo and Raid the Squirrel, ever since during around, roughly in the 1990s or something like that, now finally makes a return from during the likes of the 2018 expansion version of Sonic Mania. Actually, I'll get into more details onto that. We need to get ourselves our Crash Copy ability so that you can able to proceed right here. And also this chest. The Brace Knuckle, which actually worth 20,000 gold. Yeah, first worth mentioning throughout. So anyways, yeah, not only does it actually contain Mighty the Armadillo and Raid the Squirrel as two new playable characters in Sonic Mania, which is about time, and also they're actually going to be bringing ourselves Encore mode, which even then though, something related to a different gameplay experience, but I really wasn't paying that much attention with that information. Ember Rose actually worth 22,100 gold. Almost reminds me like a Beauty and a Beast, except, well, it's not red, it's usually just bronze. So anyway, the next treasure we need to enter this door over there, which you need to fight over for that gust of wind right there, which actually leads you to not one, but two treasures. So first off we have is Fish Fossil, and this worth 8,250 gold, and another treasure which is Beast Fossil, which actually worth more than that, but it forms of 24,220 gold. Yeah, first worth mentioning for that. So anyway, and also they actually try to make an announcement by the forms of they trying to expand upon the competition mode, which originally in the forms of the original Sonic Mania copy, that normally you get yourselves just only 2 players to access to the competition mode. Now they're going to be bringing us 4 players this time, which is really good. Okay, we got Nunchuck, so that actually worth, I don't know how much does it actually worth me, because, oh yeah, it says 55,480 gold, so yeah, I must have pressed it really quickly. Probably because I was a little bit too much of a rush at the moment, probably because of the lack of uploading schedule these days. But even now, that's always happens when it forms of some uploads like this. So anyways, now let's enter this room now because of some more treasures to find. So, and then after that room is pretty much done, then we pretty much moving on to the third and final room of that particular area, by the forms of the crystal area. Actually, let's go ahead and just equip myself, or even in this case, I'll just showcase off another copy ability that's actually introduced in this game, Yo-Yo. I actually really like Yo-Yo, because what that ability is so unique is the fact that, oh no, I'm almost dying, aren't I? In fact, what makes it worse though is the fact that the maximum tomato is actually, or the maximum tomato, is going to be on the other side, so I have to able to actually bypass this water part without even dying once, so good luck with me from that. Anyway, they expand upon the 4-player competition mode because of thanks to the more playable characters you can now actually use this time. So even though it's a pretty awesome addition by the forms of Sonic Mania Plus. And since I've already owned Sonic Mania, the original version on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch as a download, oh yeah, we got a bucket, but it forms of, well, just 200 gold worth it. So, in fact, for that particular bucket right there, it's also another reference to another... You gotta be kidding me! I was way too off there. I'll have to restart that particular point again, aren't I? Yep. Well, luckily, though, it's not that far from here, because even then, though, that's, well, as you expected, it's not that far from here. So yeah, with that bucket right there that I've got, this is actually another reference to something related to the Nintendo game like that, and somehow it's gonna be the forms of the only exclusive Japanese title, but in forms of the Super Famicom, and that is the forms of Mario and Wario. I'm pretty sure that game is heavily utilized the Super Nintendo mouse of that game, because of, I can tell from that bucket's design, is by the forms of how the fact that, wow, M actually represents Mario, and then the other way, if you tilt it another way around, it represents Wario. So that makes it pretty obvious with that, you know, that familiar Super Nintendo title is usually being only sold or released in the forms of the Super Famicom, which, you know, only saw the light of day in Japan rather than internationally. So, oh yeah, this one actually leads us all the way up, so now we can actually pass through here, even though I could potentially try to save my maximum tomato from earlier ago, but because of the stupid squid enemy just keep on going after me like nothing else. Or perhaps it's maybe that jet, enemy right over there just somehow distracts me. So, let's go ahead and just go ahead and equip ourselves the yo-yo for now. Because even then, yo-yo is pretty interesting because you can actually use the yo-yo as a projectile, which you can even then. It kind of reminds me like a, Silent Belmont's, whip attack, where it forms of Super Castlevania 4, mind you. And we got ourselves a Springtime, which actually worth 250,000 gold, much like how it does it in, well, you know, Springtime. And, yeah, there's not much I can tell from that point of view, from that right here. And I'm guessing for those treasures that we've got, but in forms of Springtime and Summertime, these are actually represents springs of the seasons, but in forms of the corresponding order. Like, for instance, in the first year, but in forms of just winter, and then spring, summer, and then autumn. So, I'm guessing that's what it usually represents that. So anyways, we have to go here because of this last treasure in this section. So even then, we got ourselves a $100 coin. And this will actually worth 10,000 gold. Speaking of sorcerers, that recently during the likes of a couple of days ago, in the forms of 16 days ago actually, recently during the United Kingdom at the moment, we're no longer going to be using our old £10 notes for now because of how the fact that we've moved on to a new generation of any sorts, but in forms of using with the newer £10 notes this time. So even then I thought it was worth mentioning for this throughout. And before we proceed to the third and final room, let's go ahead and save our game quickly and regenerate ourselves with our health. And now we can able to move on. So that'll be good to go for that point of view right there. So I'm really hoping I can get myself another extra life I'm hoping for, because unlike the ones in oh yeah, we got ourselves another treasure chest right there, and this one gives us Ancient Gem, and this actually worth 68,000 gold. Not bad for that pricing right there, for that little particular gold's worth. So anyway, what was I trying to say? Oh yeah, I just get confused for this point, folks. I do apologize. Yeah, let's get back into the Sonic Mania Plus syndrome. It's the fact that, recently that, they actually, as I mentioned earlier, they expand upon these quite a few stuff there. Oh, this looks kind of familiar. Falcon Helmet, and this actually worth 41,000 gold. And this appears to be a reference to the F-Zero series, like the forms of Captain Falcon, but in forms of the main protagonist in the forms of the F-Zero series, but in forms of, you know, F-Zero for the Super Nintendo, and F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64, and also F-Zero GX for the Nintendo GameCube. Please, Nintendo, for the love of God, bring back F-Zero franchise, please, because everyone was really expecting to actually hoping for that F-Zero games to be returning for quite a long hiatus right about now. Ever since 2003, which was 15 years longer. Jesus Christ. Anyway though, speaking of another treasure, we found another one over here, which even then though, let's go ahead and open it, and we actually got ourselves our dud, which actually worth just only 30 gold. So, again, not much, but hey, at least it's worth it, I suppose. If not. Anyway though, nothing down there besides just more supply of food if you actually almost run out of health at the moment, but naturally speaking, that's all we can cover through. So, yeah, and also in addition to those extra stuff in Sonic Mania Plus, as I mentioned earlier, not only does it brings us a 32-page art book of any sort, but also the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis reversible cover, and also during the likes of well, I would say pretty much everything here, but of course, since I've already got that game, but in forms of the PS4 and Nintendo Switch version digitally, luckily though, there's also a downloadable update, but in forms of the downloadable version. So, here's the last treasure on that particular crystal area, the Truth Mirror, and this actually worth 500,000 gold, which is quite easily the most expensive treasure to get. But anyways though, enough about this little jibby jabber, so let's go ahead and finish up with the crystal area. And yeah, we've got 29 treasures all in one video, so it's quite short to actually just manage to realize about that. For my partner companion and the forms of the copy ability choice, I don't know why I've managed to go up Wing though, but I'm also able to actually use the Wing copy ability as a companion and Fighter just for myself. So here we go, folks. Here's the next boss in Kirby Superstar and also the Great Cave Offensive. And this boss is so unique. This is in forms of computer virus, which basically actually leads us to 3 series of bosses. So first boss we have is the forms of the slime. He's pretty simple by the looks of it though. Just keep on attacking him and that's all you're really trying to do here. So not much anything else to say about this here. And also what makes this boss is so unique compared to how it does in any other bosses is the fact that it almost feels very similar to the turn-based RPG style of boss like this. Which even then though, that's actually pretty awesome by the looks of it though. Let's go ahead and just let Knuckle Joe deal all the work. And here's the next boss throughout in this computer virus, Dancing Doll. What is this, Pinocchio? No, I'm just kidding, because even then, Pinocchio does have long nose instead of the dancing doll. But even then, that's just already made up. Oh, good. Now we've got a plasma right here, right now, which actually provides us to the most devastating attack for a boss like this. So let's go ahead and keep on using that method right there, as you can tell. Yeah, because whenever the plasma starts glowing, it's your chance to able to actually throw a projectile right at these bosses or enemies now. So the final fight in a computer virus is the witch itself, which even though that she has the most health out of them all. So yeah, just take my advice to able to actually just be very cautious with those attacks, and then if you do that just in time, then you should be able to deal with the computer virus. So, and what's also so unique is the fact that I'm able to own 230 experience points, and yeah, this does remind me like an RPG type of boss, which even then that's actually really cool. I kind of wish it does that in the more games that often, but even then I kind of wish if that system will make a comeback. But even then, that's as far as I can tell. But anyways, and I'm pretty sure we're pretty much done with the crystal area. So now, oh yeah, every time you actually finish each of the segments of the actual worlds themselves, sometimes you actually write onto yourself some minecarts every time you actually go ahead and proceed to the next portion of that particular Great Cave Offensive, which I think is actually really cool, awesome, cool as well. Sorry for a little bit of a dialogue is going really bad at the moment, probably because, you know, it's been a long while since I'm actually going to be uploading those things. So anyway, and I'm guessing we have to end things off here just as from here, because even then I'm not going to tell you what this world is going to be. But even then though, let's go ahead and find ourselves our save points before we're able to actually just to end things off from just as that. So join me next time on Let's Play Kirby Superstar, specifically in the Great Cave Offensive. It's the fact that we're going to be moving on to the 3rd portion of this particular world, which even then we'll find out during the likes of when we actually get to this point. So yeah, see you guys next time for that. Later, fellas.